Hey everyone, it's JT O'Donnell from Work It Daily. Welcome to episode 2 of Recruiter Table Talk, RTT. So this is the show that really delves into all things recruiting, staffing, job search so that you can understand what's happening over on that hiring side of the marketplace, really empower you. And I am so excited, a little giddy to be honest with you, because I'm getting to talk to Stephanie Miller from Express Employment International. This is one of the biggest staffing agencies, in the world, and they're very effective at what they do. And so she's going to be giving us an inside track today about how job seekers can change careers right now through the use of a staffing agency, how to work with one correctly so that you can pivot that career. And I'm excited about this because, I work with all of you, the job seekers. I left the staffing industry over 20 years ago to become an advocate for you, the worker. And so I have a pulse. I hear what you're talking about. And there's just been this overwhelming response lately for people saying, JT, I'm trying to make a career change. The pandemic opened my eyes that I want to do something different, but I'm really struggling. I can't seem to make that pivot. I can't seem to get my foot in the door. And so having Stephanie here today to really, unlock what has to happen for you and how to leverage the power of those staffing agencies is going to be a game changer. So very excited for all of you. Make sure you take this time for yourself, shut everything down. Know that this is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again afterwards. So just sit back and take it all in. And of course, we've left a ton of time for questions, so get ready for that. We're going to save them to the end though, okay? So get ready. But with that in mind, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you end up in the staffing industry?
Well, I've really been in the staffing industry for my entire career. I actually started out working a desk at Express Employment Professionals in Bend, Oregon, worked there for 24 years. So I did everything from industrial positions up to professional, became owner in 2015, and then at about 2021 transitioned to this role with our international company. So I've seen it from the very beginning and moving through into where we are today.
And, that's why I love about having you on here. You've actually owned a staffing agency within the organization. So I don't think anybody is going to have as much knowledge about what it takes to change careers because you've done this for people, right? I'm sure lots of people over the years, which is amazing. So let's get into it because I know people are anxious to understand more about this. When we talk about changing careers with a staffing agency, what do you think is the number one thing to understand about it? Like, why use a staffing agency over trying to do it yourself?
Yeah. There's so many reasons where or why you might choose a staffing company. But the biggest thing is that when you make a transition in your career, it's a huge decision. It's often one of the biggest decisions you make. And we make it, pretty quickly for how impactful it is in our lives. So why a staffing agency can help you is you want that person on your side, that advocate that's going to tell you about what type of job you're looking for, what type of company that you have available to you. There's so many pieces that we understand because we partner with those companies, and we can provide you just a better idea of what are the pros, the cons, and what do you want to consider when you make that change.
I love that you say that. Before we got on the show today, folks, we were both talking about our time in the staffing industry. And I remember way back when, over 20 years ago, when I was sitting in a room and our leading executive from our staffing company came and said, look, the research shows that by 2020, half of the workforce will be temporary. There'll be gig workers, there'll be freelancers, there'll be contractors. And a lot of people around that table giggled and laughed and thought that was crazy, but I did not. We saw that this was coming and that everybody was going to be temporary. Every job is temporary, folks. We talk about this a lot with you, that you're a business of one, you're a service provider. So you don't have to, you can be in business for yourself. You should think of yourself as a business of one, but it doesn't mean you have to do this by yourself. And I love that, Stephanie was able to point that out, that it's such a big transition and a lot of people don't realize you probably should be getting some help with this. So with that in mind, let's talk about the various things that, you mentioned advocate, that we're an advocate for the associate. That's what they call you, by the way, folks. They call you an associate. So talk about all the things that your agency in particular has developed in order to be that advocate for the talent.
Absolutely. So the first thing that we really focus on from a organizational standpoint is we want to support career growth with our associates. We don't want you just to move from one job, from job A to job B, without any sort of progression in your own career. And so what we want to do is, even if we're not filling you in the job you want today, we want to give you the tools to get you there. So if you are making a transition or you want to brush up in some area, touch base with your agency, because there's often a lot of support. There's training. It's generally free of charge to you, the associate, so you can really take your career where you want to go and highlight yourself to get the most out of your next career opportunity. Because, what we want to do is stop thinking about my resume is the only thing that gets me in the door. You have so much more than that. That's what we're going to put forward to our client. And so anything we can do to help you, we have some great education tools. We have a blog, there's video support. All of those things are available to help you get the next best career opportunity, not just the next position.
Well, and with that in mind, folks, I just popped a link in the chat. This link will take you to all of the locations that they have so that you can quickly go through and find a location near you. I want to talk about this Job Genius career discovery tool that you have.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Oh, it's great. So sometimes when we go into our coming out of education, or maybe our current position, we don't know where to go. We know that maybe we want to change. We feel like we're underutilizing our potential, but what does that mean? So what Job Genius really does is it helps you ask some questions, talks about different work environments, gives you tools to get your mind thinking about, where do I really want to be? What's really important to me? And so the idea isn't to give you what you need to do, but really help you start considering what the opportunities could be. And I think that's the biggest challenge when you think about making a leap, is there's fear in that unknown. So this is just going to help you ask yourselves the right questions to put that path in front of you.
Just to validate that, at Work It Daily, we get over 1 million visitors per month. And we did a survey, and 47% of them said the reason they're not moving forward is they don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
So that whole idea of Job Genius is fabulous. You also have training programs and certifications. So talk to us through that. Like, why would somebody who's working through an agency want to get some sort of certification from you?
Absolutely. So an example, we have a program that we're launching called Workplace Pro, and it's really helping somebody move from one area to another. For example, let's say you worked in a customer service role, or maybe you did a lot of work in an industrial environment, but want to move more towards that professional office environment. We have a self-directed coursework that you can take that really is going to prepare you for what that role is, what changes in it. And then we utilize that certification with a badge to show to a client, this person has that base of knowledge to take their career to the next level. So again, it's all about really forecasting and showcasing really to the employer what you have to offer for them, because we want to move past that it needs to be on a piece of paper. We just want them to know you have done and dedicated yourself to our certification program, and that's what they will see when you come to work for them.
I love that. You and I both talked about not loving resumes because they just don't properly represent, a person's transferable skills and where they're headed. So the idea of being able to say, hey, this person has been certified by us. We know they can do the job, so we're going to place them with you is brilliant, folks. And this is what I love when you work with a staffing agency, especially the one that Stephanie works for. They're like your talent agent. They're like Jerry Maguire. They're representing you. And I love that aspect. It's one of my favorite things when I went to work for a staffing agency and I realized the power. And so let's talk a little bit more about that, Stephanie, because your role is to navigate this person through the journey. So you mentioned this idea of helping you map out the steps. Like maybe you're not ready for the job today, but if I heard you correctly, what you're saying is you can help them sort of lily pad their way, like a frog, yes, jump there and get there. But you also talked about being able to share insights that maybe that person doesn't understand about the job. Talk a little bit more about that coaching.
Well, it's interesting because, we talked about resumes. There's really two pieces of paper that we have grown to really depend on that don't give us a big enough picture. The resume is one because we have a great human and so many attributes that don't get included. But the job description is another. Oftentimes they're very minimal and it doesn't encompass what the job is. So when you're a job seeker trying to make that transition, some of it is just trying to understand, what do I really need to know for that job? So your employment specialist at the staffing agency can help you identify what are the pieces of that job that may not be listed on a job description, and can help you map out where your strengths align. And so letting them know more about what your experience and strengths are could even lead to a different career path than you expected, because we have that understanding of what's in between the lines on the job description. So we're really trying to marry those two things together, recognizing that culture and growth and industry also play a very big part in why you want to change to a specific company or job.
I have to tell you a quick story. So I have a family member who, after a very successful career in modeling, of all things, needed to, find a new job that comes to an end. And so she came to me as a career coach and said, "What do I do?" And I said, "You go to a staffing agency. They're going to be able to really understand you, transfer your skills, and let you be deployed and sort of try before you buy, test out these different roles." And so she took my advice, and she was in New York City. And the first place they sent her to was sort of an insurance office environment. She did the job, but it wasn't her gig. They deployed her the second time around in sort of like this banking type role, finance, which is very, common in New York. Again, wasn't her thing. And the third time around, she called and said, "They just deployed me at this brand new company in New York. It's a new like cable TV, and I absolutely love it. It's called the Discovery Channel, and I'm going to be working on this new show called Trading Spaces." I kid you not, that launched her career until she recently retired and into the TV space. And had she not gone through an agency, she would have never found this career. So I just love that, right? Because they had that. The other thing that was nice about it, and you mentioned this word buffer, that you, the agency and the are representing the associate. So you're the buffer between the employer and the associate. Talk us through the advantages of having that.
Yeah. When we take a candidate and we present them to a client, we're sitting down, we're having a conversation like this and talking about not just what you've done, but what you want to do. And what did we notice when we had our interview, or what are the things that are really important to you? And having somebody advocate for you like that is so much more powerful than going into an interview or applying just blindly to a company. Because again, everything that we're going to do is to really bring out what we believe your strengths are. And companies and hiring managers, they want to know that. And oftentimes you can get mistaken or missed because you weren't able to give that other information. So having that advocate for you that's really going to highlight your strengths can get you into more diverse positions than maybe you could on your own. And I do want to mention, when you talk about your friend, that idea of trying, we have a lot of positions that we call evaluation hire, where you have that 30 to 90 day period to see if you like the position, even if it's a career. That is not just for the company. Oftentimes people don't want to accept it because they feel like, oh, it's not a committed job. It is a committed job. It's just allowing you both to make sure that the fit is right. So if you choose to take that position, I think you should. It gives you time to see, is this relationship going to work where you don't feel like you're stuck, because you've accepted the role. So I know people think about that from the company perspective, but that is there for you as the associate as well.
Yeah. And, I've also seen so many people in my time included in the industry where maybe something's happening at the work site with that employer, and you're able to go to the staffing company and talk through what's happening, as opposed to having to directly confront the employer. Like, you just have this person to coach you through it and, support you. Again, like you said, you're the advocate for the associate, and not everybody has that person in their court when they're working at a company. We've talked about that multiple times. So I love that protection. It's almost like a protection that you're given when you work through an agency. Don't you think so?
Oh, absolutely. And even if you think about gig work or temporary roles, when we're trying to leapfrog people to their next career path, the best way to do that is to give them experience, even if it isn't 5 years, 10 years of experience. We can put you in a role. If we're trying to increase accounting skills, for example, let's put you on a temporary position that's one level up where you are. You do a great job. We now have a past experience to take on your next position. So that's how we're going to also leapfrog you to gain that experience that you need so that you ultimately take a long-term career path that is the right fit. That's where you want to be.
I love it. And, one of the things we were discussing as we were preparing for this event was the fact that agencies tap into what we call a hidden job market, meaning you're getting access to employers and their positions that aren't necessarily public or posted anywhere. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So this is something, when I go back to my franchise ownership days, that I did a tremendous amount of work in. I had relationships with the businesses within my community for 10, 12, 15 years. So oftentimes I knew their business cycles. I knew where they were going to be because we had communication and tenure together. So if somebody came in and had the right fit for an organization, I would call that company and say, I have a great person here. You need to interview them. Even if the job is not open, they are worth your time. And often the hiring manager or supervisor there would make that hire, because it's not always that the person and the job opening align at the very same day. But good companies will invest in good people. So if the talent is there, they don't want to lose it. And that's really where an agency knows the value of their territory and the company mix that they have. And we definitely make those calls for you.
Yeah, I don't think people understand that a lot of times companies like small and mid-sized businesses and even larger ones, they don't have dedicated recruiters for certain roles, or maybe they're outsourcing the entire recruiting function to a staffing company because they don't want to have recruiters in-house when they know that you've got access to the talent, know what they want, and can just get them the person. It's a lot of work to recruit,
It is.
So I love that.
And it's ongoing. You just can't let it slide, and businesses know that. And so they're going to give those tips and what they need in the future to a good staffing agency, because they do want to see that talent as soon as it's available.
All right, so let's transition over then, because now we understand what the staffing company is bringing to the table, the agency. But you have to bring something to the table. You want to make this career change. We talked about personality traits and the things that you need to be successful and get noticed by an employer. So talk us through, what should all the people listening today, what should they be prepared to do and deliver on so they can work with a staffing agency to change careers?
Absolutely. So the first thing that we need to do is identify what I want, where do I want to go, and then how do I get noticed within my organization? If we're doing exactly what we were asked to do and nothing more, we can be good employees, but overlooked. If we highlight some of our willingness to be flexible and help someone out or do more, inquire on how the growth path could be, those types of opportunities where you put yourself out there get noticed. And employers are very busy people, right? They're running a business. So the people that support them or stand out are going to be the ones that make that change quicker than if you don't. So I always tell people, if you have a path or you have a goal, go get it. Be in charge of your own destiny by putting yourself out there in a very positive way, because human nature brings you to the top and you get noticed, and that will help in your career path.
I love that. So you talked about being flexible, going above and beyond, having that kind of can-do attitude. Talk to us about how someone on the job in a staffing role, how can they show the skills that they have to offer so that the employer, like you said, who's super busy, can pick up on that and say, oh, wow, actually we could, deploy you here and here. How does that work?
Like when I'm talking with the employment specialist, you mean, how do I identify that?
Yeah. Like, how do I get on that assignment for you and make sure that employer picks up on that, and sees those skills that I want to leverage in order to make that career change?
Oftentimes it's just trying to identify what opportunities there are. So if you see something that you're good at, if you have a great customer service, for example, or have some accounting background that you're wanting to strengthen, you start to see where the company is busy, who needs some additional help. Put yourself as available and wanting to do those things. That's how you get noticed. And doing small projects here and there to showcase your skill set is a great way to do that. Again, I would also keep in touch with your agency advocate, your employment specialist, because if you say to them, hey, I took this class, I'd like to update my resume, I just want you to know where I'm at. Oftentimes when they're talking to the company to see how it's going, they can also add that in there. Did you know that Stephanie has X, Y, and Z skill set, so that if the full-time or next growth opportunity should arise, they will help you get into that spot. So keeping that communication open with the agency, even after you get your job, is really important.
I love it. And, talk to us a little bit about when you're making a career change like this, how does the agency come up with what's the appropriate pay rate for you? Mm-hmm. And how does the agency monitor that so that as you're acquiring those skills, your pay is able to go up, right? Because obviously that's what you want to do. How does that all work within this model?
Well, it's really interesting. Pay has been a hot topic because it's moved quite drastically in the last year or so. What we do is really analyze, because we see so many positions every day. So we're constantly taking market data to identify where pay ranges are for different career opportunities. So each of those careers are broken down by skill set. So we know if you go into an express office, they're going to have a good understanding of not only what the market is paying for a particular position, but how it relates to how much skill or how much tenure you have in different places. So they will have that for you. It's probably not going to be a singular dollar amount. It's a range. And that comes from, different companies package, or their value isn't just in pay. It can be with benefits, it can be other things. So we'll give you a range on where you want to be. And that's a really good conversation, because if you come in and you feel shocked that it's not what you thought it was, then ask them why. Talk about what is included in that and how do I get to where I need to be. That's the question you want to ask the person. And then really have them help you get there. So sometimes we have to take a change that we don't want to if it brings the right outcome. And so they'll be able to talk through that with you.
Well, and that's the thing I wanted you to emphasize, because again, folks, if you're doing this all by yourself and you're trying to negotiate that salary, there's no certainty that you're going to be able to progress. But if you're working with a staffing agency and they're your advocate, then you've had this conversation around, I want to grow my career, I want to grow my salary, help me get there, and can work with you to make that happen. This is what I mean about not going it alone. I have to say it. It's such a big deal. And one of the reasons why I love staffing agencies so much. And then one other question I want to ask you before we get to everybody else's questions, Stephanie, because I know this is going to be a popular one. A lot of people will say to me, oh, I'm too old to make a career change. Or, they're never going to, pick me. I've had a whole career already and now I want to switch. What do you say to people who say that?
Oh my gosh. Nope, we can help you. I don't think that there is an age gap to somebody who wants to contribute to a company. I don't believe that. You have a great skill set. Even if you're doing something totally different, it might look a little different than you thought or be scary because it's a transition after being so used to your career. But there is so many skills that we all possess that are transferable to different industry, different jobs. And the idea that somebody has a career only solidifies that they are a good investment for that company. So it shouldn't hold you back. If anything, use it as your advantage to understanding, hey, I actually have built something. I worked really hard at it. That dedication, those traits will carry over as a positive. It's just as scary to do it when we have ingrained on ourselves, don't make this change. I think you make the change. And companies today are more willing to look at every type of candidate. What do they want to be? Where do they want to grow? Because they want the best talent, not necessarily just a specific skill set. That's what you're bringing with you, is the whole package.
Oh my gosh, I love it. All right, folks, we're going to be getting to your questions in a hot minute here. But first of all, I just want to remind you that we're talking with Stephanie Miller today. She's from Express Employment International, also known as Express Pros. So I've got a link up here, but more importantly, I keep popping the link here inside the chat so that you can go over and find one of their offices near you and you can start that journey. I also want to tell you, if you've been following me on LinkedIn, they have a super cool phone app. It's called the Express Jobs app. You can find it in your app store, download it, find jobs in your local area, apply through the platform, converse with them through it. It's amazing. So be sure to check out that app as well. It's called the Express Jobs app. Okay. So we're going to take some questions right now. If you have a question, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put the word in question in all caps first. That way we can pick it out of the chatter, because I know there's a lot of discussion going on. And then you can post your question for me here and we'll be able to bring that up for Stephanie to answer. But while we're waiting on that, Stephanie, I want to ask you a question. Something that's very popular right now is this idea of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. Talk us through the advantages of working through a staffing agency for people that maybe are feeling like they're getting discriminated against through normal channels.
Yep. Well, I think that's it. If you feel like you're not getting represented well, you really need somebody that you can be honest with and say, this is what I'm facing. This is what I want to avoid. And we will do that. There is a multitude of different businesses that have culture inclusion, that are really dedicated to, again, the right talent. It doesn't look a certain way. It's not a certain age. They want your skills. And we know who those employers are. So using a staffing company is like having, we've said it so many times, but it's having somebody in your corner where you can say, this is really what I offer. Let's get past what you think they should be they're looking at, and find out what you bring. And that's what we're going to do. We only care about what you bring to that company and what your skill set is and how you can improve. We're not looking at how old are you, all of those other pieces. We care about people, and that's how we will work for you when you're trying to do a job search. And again, when you look at all of the job postings that are available right now, so many, there's probably 10 job postings for every available worker out there. How do you differentiate what a company's culture is from that? It's really hard to tell. You don't get the opportunity to walk in the door anymore. So we have walked in that door. We have met those decision makers, and that's how we can share that with the associate.
I love it. I love it. Folks, if you're looking for that URL, I've got it. It's streaming live on YouTube, but apparently LinkedIn doesn't want to let us post it. I'll be sure to post it afterwards. I've also got it up on the screen. Lots of ways for you to go ahead and get that link for sure. So let's talk about this idea of, if I've had a lot of people on here, there's so many making comments about this that I'm going to just generalize for you, Stephanie. Okay. But we do have a lot of people that are saying, look, I was in this, career, healthcare for 20 years, and now I want to be a content writer. Completely different. Can you talk through, give us the example, how does the agency start to figure out how to make that happen for the person? Let's give them a real example.
Okay. So the first thing that I would do is I would literally sit down and ask you, what did you do on a day-to-day basis? What did that job include? Because we all have a job. Again, we have a general job description that we were hired for, but how many of us have the majority of our day spent on anything else requested, right? There's this bottom sentence on every job that's like, whatever else we want you to do. That's what I want to talk about. Not just what you did in your career, but what are the other things that you contributed? Was it a smaller company where you had to help in a different area? Is it a very large company that you assisted in some project? Those are the pieces that compiled together give you a new sense of a career direction, right? So that's where I'm going to start. I want to know what that everything else means to you.
I love it. And you have ways to then quantify that experience and validate the person has it, so that when you are pitching them to the employer, you can say with the confidence that the person can do the job, right?
Totally. So we have a lot of, we call them skills, where you can go in and showcase how competent you are in different areas. And we're going to utilize that, as well as references and communicating with the people that worked with you. So it's not just it's not a skill, a test. It's like, let's highlight, what do you do well? You can show that base of knowledge. We're going to provide that to the client, where it's more comprehensive than just, I know it, now I can do it. So it's bigger than that.
I love it. And I say that, everyone, because look, so many of you are saying, hey, I'm in this and I want to move to this. And we couldn't possibly go through all those today. But what I think Stephanie just made clear to you, the first step is to go reach out to them, set a meeting and share that story and let them do their thing. That's what I'm telling you. Again, you do not need to do this alone. That's what they're there for. Think of them as that talent agent. Now,
And
Monica,
oftentimes people walk in not knowing that we're going to ask that. So to prepare, sit down with a piece of paper and just think through, what did you do and what that new career you want is. Why is it appealing to you? Why are you looking to go there? Once you start putting that in your mind, when you walk into the staffing company, in a very short amount of time, you guys will make better progress, right? You will have that toolkit with you to give them.
Totally get it. Love it. All right. So Monica's asked a question that several other people have asked, and she said, what's the cost of using staffing agency? So let's talk through, obviously, how does a staffing agency make money, right?
Yes. Yeah. So at Express, all of the cost to use a staffing agency is actually on the business themselves. So they are contracting with us to find a specific talent that they need in their role. So for the associate, there is no cost to use Express. So this is a free service to you, and those other resources like the training programs, Job Genius, all of that is free to those associates who have come in and applied with Express. So it's a great way without costing you any money to have that support.
I love it. And I just want to add in something here. People will sometimes come to me and say, well, if it doesn't cost me anything, then obviously they're going to get me a lower salary because, they have to cover that cost. Folks, that's not true. That's not how it works. That company that's using the agency, they're saving so much money in not having a full-time recruiter with benefits and overhead that they understand they're paying a premium to the agency in order for them to find and manage the talent. That's how it works. That's why they do it. If you think about it, maybe you've heard the term outsourcing before. Lots of companies hire full-time employees for their core things, but then outsource functions of the job that can be better handled by an agency. And recruiting is one of those very common things. So please don't assume that you're going to get a low ball offer. I mean, I know Stephanie can't share these stories, but I know that I can. I have worked with a lot of people who got stuck in a job. Their employer would not give them any more money. They went to a staffing agency and they got a huge bump in pay because they could deploy them at these places that were paying more for their skill set. So you don't know that until you go in and talk with them. All right.
Well, and you make a great point, because I will say this, our reputation as a staffing company is making the right placement. So we want the best talent possible. That is the connection that we have to the associate. So we want to get the best for you, because if we have turnover or we don't make that placement, that's our own reputation as well. So it's, even if it doesn't feel like you're paying for my service, it's important to me. My business depends on me making good placements.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that you're mentioning that. So Hilda's asking a question. A lot of people are inquiring, what happens if you don't know the career route you want to go in? Can I come in and talk to you about that? So what do you think about that, Stephanie?
Yep, absolutely. We can help you with that. And we'll actually probably provide you some of those tools to say, okay, let's talk about this is where you've been. What are you happy with? What are you dissatisfied with? That starts the conversation. But we will also give you like Job Journey, where you can then take it home with some good material to help you make those decisions. We don't want to push you in one direction or another. We mostly want to unearth what you're really looking for. So you may not leave that day with a whole new career path, but we will give you the tools to start that process of thinking and understanding where you want to go.
I love it. This is a really great comment, but it leads to a question. I wish this information was provided to from the military when people get out, to their civilian transition. Do you see a lot of former military, and how can this benefit them?
Absolutely. We work with a lot of local, we are a franchise organization. So all of my franchisees are individually owned throughout our company. And in many of those territories, we're close to the military, and we try to help them because skill sets are not identified the same in the military as they are in private industry. So oftentimes when people bring their resume to me or to a company in my area, they may not understand what that means. What is that? What is an engineer in the military different than an engineer in private industry? So we do have resources to our franchisees, and that's where working with an international company like Express is helpful. We have those benefits for our franchisees. We're doing that research for them. And yet, when you go into that Express franchise, it is individually owned. They are all about their community. So you kind of have the best of small company with big resources with our international business.
I absolutely love that, because if you think about it, you've just gotten out of the military, and thank you for your service if you're out there. You can't figure out what to put on your resume because you don't know how to explain it.
Yes.
So to be able to go into an agency and have them translate you, but better yet, represent you so that it isn't about your resume anymore. I love that. I love that kind of support. And again, folks, this is why you work with an agency, which leads to Karen's question. What industries do you specialize in? Let's talk through. We haven't even discussed that. What are the range of jobs that you mentioned, like light industrial, professional? Can you get more specific around that?
Absolutely. So we are a full service staffing company. So we offer everything from temporary placement to career path placement. And so we're going to help people entry level all the way up to CEOs, presidents, career path right there. So we work in a lot of different industries. We have a skilled trades division. We have a light industrial division. We have an office services division and a professional search division. So we're going to help any of your staffing needs. We do offer medical services as well, not in every franchise, but significantly throughout the country. So we really have a variety of industries, and we can help anybody in their career.
I love it. Which leads to, I feel like Andrea is asking this question. I was next thing to ask, and Andrea beat me to it. So we're talking about career change, but Andrea is like, well, can you upgrade me? Is it possible to go up a level? And I love this because sometimes people get stuck. They're in a company. The company doesn't see them as going higher. They have no place else to go, but they don't want to go lateral, right? They want to move up. So can that happen? And how does that happen?
Absolutely. And that's something that I think is a misconception of the staffing industry. We always think of this lateral placement, where you're basically just moving from company A to company B. But today's market, especially, this is where you want to grow. This is where you want to see, what can I do? And you don't limit to yourself to what that is. What we can do as a staffing company is say to our client, I know this person is the position they have is maybe just underqualified right now, but they have the desire to grow and they are bringing this to the table. So we will help advocate that transition for you. And that's actually a very commonplace for us. We're looking to help you move your next role up. That's what we want. And so absolutely, we can help do that.
I love that. So let's talk about people who are like international students or have temporary visas. Are they able to be deployed on temporary assignments, and can that lead to permanent employment?
So yes, if you have the documentation to come over here on temporary work, we do that all the time. And so it's a great way to get your foot in the door here, and it gives you that opportunity that you need to as a student or somebody moving into the United States, get that visa and move forward in a long-term position. The way to do that is with your work visa to get working today, and a temporary job does that for you. But it doesn't have to be just entry level. A lot of our work, if it's temporary, can even be what we call contract staffing, which is on the professional side. So engineers or IT, manufacturing, a lot of different industries have those high level positions that are still considered temporary. That's a great way to get a new career opportunity if you come into the country.
Yeah, it's amazing opportunities. Folks, as a reminder, I'm talking to Stephanie Miller. She is from Express Employment International, better known as Express Pros. I've got the link up here where you can go and find the locations near you. All right. So that's the best way to get started. Also, they have a phenomenal phone app. I'm going to say it again. I've done TikToks about this phone app. I've put it all over LinkedIn because it is that cool. Literally, it's called the Express Jobs app. You'll find it in your phone app store. It's free to download, and it helps you find jobs in your area and start to connect with that agency so that you can get working, which I absolutely love. I can't believe 45 minutes goes really fast with you, Stephanie. So you're going to need to come back on Recruiter Table Talk again. But I've got a couple more jobs for you, and then I'm going to, be able to pass it back to you to close things up. One of the questions actually is from Melinda. What's the status on remote jobs these days? Are those ever something that people can take advantage of in this day and age through a staffing company?
Absolutely. We are equipped to do it. So even if it's on a temporary assignment or long-term, we have the capability of finding those positions. We have seen a decline. They were really relevant I'm not saying the right word. There was a lot of them very short time ago. Companies are bringing people back into the workplace more, but they're still there. And honestly, now that we've designed the way to do business remotely, some companies are preferring it. So yes, we work with them. You just have to, make that as one of the indicators of something that you prefer.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay. Well, my last question is, if you are adamant about switching jobs, you want to switch careers, right? And you're really specific in the pay that you need to make, like it's non-budget, and you go in and it's not something that the agency can handle right now. Because I want to paint this picture. What do you advise that person to do? What can they do to get themselves to that place? And do you coach them, manage their expectations on this? How do you get them to where they want to be?
Absolutely. Our employment specialists, they work in a lot of different companies and industries. So the information that they're going to provide you isn't a gut instinct. It's based on what they see, and they're going to give that to you. And then if we can't help you, I'd rather tell you why. So I'll explain to you where we're seeing pay rates, why we're seeing pay rates there. And then, it's up to you to decide if that's acceptable or not. And this isn't a judgment on our end to you or to the clients. It's more just what we see in the market. A lot of times people will accept that information and they just need time to either make adjustments or absorb what does it actually mean. So we just give you that free time to say, this is where we're at. Please come back if it's changed, or if I see something, I will still call you. And sometimes if people are open, and this is what I would say to that staffing or to that associate is, don't give up on us yet. Go through this process. If I come up with a good alternative that's close, do you still want to hear about it? And your openness to that could lead you down a different path, and so having some flexibility, if it's possible, is not a terrible thing. But we understand we all have to make our ends meet. So if you need time to make that adjustment or figure out how you're going to save up to have that time period where you need an adjustment, we understand that as well.
Yeah, I hope everyone's hearing that. The moral to this story, folks, is build a relationship with a staffing agency. Because if they can't place you today based on what you need, building that relationship, something might come across their desk and they could be calling you out of the blue, or something might change in your environment and you can call them and get deployed. Like, you need this relationship in your life. Every job is temporary. You are a business of one, but you don't have to be in business by yourself. I'm going to keep harping on those things because, look, this is why I fell in love with the staffing industry world. This is what got me into it. This has been amazing, Stephanie. You're phenomenal.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been a great experience. And I really do. You're so right. Go see somebody. Once your information's there, we have it. We'll continue to think about you as we place jobs. It's not just today.
So, Stephanie, is it okay if people contact you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Yes.
Great. We've got her LinkedIn all dialed in here on the platform, folks, so you can absolutely reach out to her. I'm going to say it again. We've popped the link in there. Please go over and check out their locations. And with that, I'm going to toss it back to you and let you close us out. What's the one last thing you want everybody to know before we sign off today?
I just want people to really know, be fearless. You're not limited by what your fear of what you can get. Let's think about really where you want to be and start working on getting you there. That's what we as a staffing company want to do for you. We want to help you grow and build a relationship. So the sky is the limit. And we have some great owners and staff members out in the field that they have a passion to help people. That's what we do. We'd love to meet anybody that's looking for work.
I love it. There you have it, folks. Another episode of Recruiter Table Talk on the books. You were the best. As always, you're the best audience. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for your fantastic questions. And we'll see you next time, okay? Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.